Chris, it's so great to have you on the show.
It's fantastic to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so it's been a while since we met in person at
Just
Content
a
Marketing
while.
World. Yeah.
Few years. You have more hair and I've got less. So there goes the hands of time and all that.
Yeah, well, actually, I did have a hair transplant, but that was a decade ago now.
You're
It
cheating,
does
man.
actually work. It
Oh, well,
does
there you
work.
go. All right.
Yeah.
I think I've just
Uh,
come to terms with it now, to be honest with you. I've just come to terms with it.
yeah, it's a good look. I mean, Tim Ferriss is rocking it. You're rocking it. I think it works. And what's that movie, The Fast and the Furious?
Oh,
Did you ever get?
You're talking about Jason Statham. Yeah.
Yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
fun fact, completely unrelated to your podcast, but if we're going to go down this rabbit hole, let's do it properly. I was walking through Hong Kong airport about a year and a half ago, and these two crazy Japanese girls come running up to me thinking that I'm Jason Statham, and they're shouting out things like Hobbs and Shaw they were calling me the transporter and all this other sort of stuff. And I'll be frank with you. I just went with it, man. I posed for the selfies and everything. I went with it. It was great.
That's awesome.
So if
Well,
Jason
taste of
Statham
fame.
listens to your show or watches, sorry, my brother, I had to just go there for a couple of minutes. Give me a break.
That's fun. Very cool. So this kind of is a good segue to personal branding because
Okay.
hopefully you will exceed in your personal brand, Jason, at some point. So, what is the importance of a personal brand versus a company brand? Because a lot of folks are focusing on building the brand and recognition of their company and neglecting their own personal brand. I was in that same boat myself, in fact, for many years.
Yeah, I think ultimately the personal brand is nothing really new. It's a little bit of a buzzword, particularly around, at the moment. It's been around for a long, long time. It's called your reputation at the end of the day. But I think things have switched so much and changed and pivoted so much over the last sort of 5 to 10 years, particularly with doing businesses, online, where if you want to build a business based around you, your personality, your expertise, and therefore, obviously, the people you want to serve the most. It's easier today to do it than it ever has been before. And the term personal brand is so much easier to kind of get on board with. I mean, you've had people like Brian Clark on your show. You think of Brian and you think of Copyblogger and you think of
Right.
Rainmaker. But, there are certain people out there, a lot of people that are out there, that will get involved with anything Brian does because Brian's involved. And that's the power of a personal brand. People ultimately want to do business with other people, I believe, deep down, more so than logos, more so than brands. And I'm more likely to buy something from someone if I know, love, and trust them. And in today's world, we can become known and loved and trusted much, much easier than ever before because we can create content, we can provide value, we can show up on video, we can, help people via podcasts, case in point right here. So I think that overall, although it's not a new thing, I think it's a thing that people are now leaning into more and more and more when it comes to building their businesses.
Yeah. So how are you building out your personal brand? Because you've done a great job, and you're creating books and summits and masterminds. And I haven't checked to see if you're in Wikipedia, but I'm guessing that you probably
I
are.
did have
You're
a
certainly
Wikipedia. Here's the
encyclopedia.
funny thing. I had a Wikipedia page for about 4 years, 5 years, I think. And then one day it just disappeared. And I don't think there is one up there right now, but, it's not the be all and end all of the world, is it? A Wikipedia page. But no, I listen to my audience, to be honest with you. That's where I focus more than anything else. I'm a big believer in what I call P2P relationships or people to people relationships. So I listen to my audience, I listen to my community, my customers, my clients, my students, whatever you want to call them. And here's kind of like, the big reveal. I just give them what they tell me they want. It's not rocket science. It genuinely isn't. If people tell me that they love getting together with other entrepreneurs that get it, that understand what it takes to be an entrepreneur in today's world, and they love learning with them and masterminding and brainstorming and networking with those people in person, well, I'm going to give birth to the Upreneur Summit in London, which happens every November. If people say to me that they are comfortable learning how to build an audience and monetize that audience working from home, then I'm going to go ahead and create a product or a course that will tell them how to do that. If they want to be part of an online community, maybe they can't travel, they don't want to travel, and they want the benefit of having that geographical support and accountability of hundreds of people around the world, then obviously I'm going to go and create something like the Upreneur Academy, which is our online community for people doing that. So I think really the key here, above and beyond everything else, is that your audience, your customers, your followers, your subscribers, whatever label you give them, they will ultimately shape the way your business grows into the future. It's just up to you whether you want to listen to them or not. Smart Money says, for me, it's a good idea.
Yeah. So how many books have you written, and how many do you have in the works?
So I've always got them in the works. I think every entrepreneur, you've probably got 10 in the works. I mean, the amount of people that you've had on your show, you could write 10 books easy, I'm sure. I have 2, which are already out there in the world. My first one, Virtual Freedom, was traditionally published and did very, very well. Has over 1,000 5-star reviews. It's got a 4.8 rating, and I think we're coming up to 80,000 or something or so copies of that book sold since it was published a few years ago. And then recently, last year, I launched Rise of the Upreneur, which is my second book, which is kind of the manifesto, right, of the whole kind of the world of the Upreneur, so to speak. And we self-published that book. One, because I wanted it out to market faster. You know, when you traditionally publish, it'll take 12 to 18 months after you sign a deal to get that book, you know, public, maybe even longer. I wanted it out faster. I wanted it to be more current. I wanted it to be more up to date and more gettable much faster. But likewise, you know, the very essence of being a Upreneur is to build a business around you, your passions, your personality and your experience. And therefore, I kind of wanted to use myself as a bit of a case study, if I'm to be honest. Like if I can publish a book and sell a whole bunch of copies, then anyone can do it, really. And so, yeah, that book's coming up on, it's a year old now. And I think we're at around 30,000 or so copies sold across, you know, paperback, Kindle, and audio, which is great. So, yeah, 2 books, at least 2 more in the works, at least. And I've also got plans to sort of start leaning a little bit into a newer project that I'm launching here in the UK sometime next year, which will be aimed towards younger entrepreneurs. I mean, literally kids. So it's sort of trying to help and develop the next kind of generation of entrepreneurs as well.
Oh, that's cool. I taught my kids entrepreneurship when they were young. I have a daughter who really got into internet marketing. She was 14 and she started building websites that were about her passions. Like Neopets was a big thing back in the day, and so she built a fan site about it and monetized it with Google AdSense. And then she started speaking at conferences like Blog Her at 16 years old. And
that's awesome.
yeah, so now she's almost 28 and has a whole set of SEO clients, and she's got her own agency. She was on MSNBC last year talking about SEO.
That's great, man. Congratulations. You did a good job there. That's good.
Yeah, thank you. And my youngest is an entrepreneur as well, but not in the internet marketing space at all. So she ended up creating a piano teaching business, mobile piano teaching business, and has clients all throughout Southern Orange County.
They're doing what they like doing. They're enjoying their work. They're providing a service to their favorite type of clients. Good luck to them, right? Good luck to them, man. Whether they become multi-gazillionaires or not, enjoy what you're doing, do it for the right reasons, for the right people, and everything will work out just fine. I'm a big believer of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So what's the angle for this book about kids and entrepreneurship?
I want to make $1 gazillion.
Okay.
No, it honestly truly is about trying to get, the next generation of entrepreneurs ready to go, fired up, understanding the fact that, the world needs entrepreneurs more so today than ever before. It needs innovators, it needs thinkers and leaders. And whether you're, whether you're 8 years old or 38 years old or even 68 years old, if you've got a great idea to provide a solution to somebody's problem, then you kind of have to get it out into the world. Like, you're being a little selfish if you don't. That's kind of my
Yeah.
attitude on it. And so
I agree.
we're very, very kind of early stages of planning and things like that. But I think the plans are sort of to maybe start off with a short series of books, and they'll be fun and a little comedic, but they'll have great stories and lessons to be learned behind them. And I'm doing my every best to get my 10-year-old boy involved in the project, but he's been a little reluctant. He's a little tougher to get involved on some things. Whereas if you ask him to go and put together an adventure playground in the garden, he'll be out all weekend doing that. So he's a little tougher to kind of deal with certain things. But my daughter has just graduated university. She's 21, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what she does. She's actually going to be joining the company on the 1st of June this year, so that's kind of exciting. She's coming on board with our live events and our social media and whatnot. So yeah, we're quite similar. There's a lot
Yeah.
of a lot of things in common there, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's a new book out from Ray Kurzweil called Danielle, and it's targeting the younger generation and inspiring them to make a difference, like a world-changing difference.
Oh,
And
okay.
this is written as a novel, and Danielle is the character who's the heroine. Is making a big difference in the world. She's kind of superhuman. She's almost like augmented or something. I haven't read the
Okay.
book yet, but
Okay.
I just get a copy of it. So you might want to check that out. It
Yeah,
might be
I will do.
inspiring for your kids.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So let's go back to these two books that you have published already. So Virtual Freedom, which I have read most of, but not all of, a while ago, and I found it excellent. One of my favorite aspects of that book is the 3 lists to freedom exercise.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you want to share that with our listeners and
Sure.
explain the importance of it?
Yeah, well, I mean, this all came out, actually, this was a I guess, self-inflicted exercise, for want of a better term. In late 2009, I burned out. We had been building the business since 2004. We're talking 4 or 5 years of sort of 15-hour days, 6 days a week, pretty solidly, except for a couple of little breaks here and there. And one morning, without dramatizing it at all, I woke up and I physically couldn't get out of bed. I was absolutely exhausted. My wife was extremely concerned. She called for an ambulance. I was taken to hospital. I was put on liquids, and I was ultimately diagnosed with acute exhaustion and dehydration. That very quickly slipped into depression, and I was on antidepressants for a very short period of time to kind of get over that, to help me sleep, to help me rest, and all that kind of stuff. And I did bounce back, and by the end of the year, I was feeling much, much better. And between Christmas and New Year's, we went away, just my wife and I. We were living in the Philippines still at the time, although we're now back in England here in Cambridge. But at the time, we were still there. And we went away and we said, okay, no devices, no computers, nothing at all. We need to go away and figure out a way to be able to ultimately replace me inside of the business day to day, because we didn't want what had just happened to happen again. And
Yeah.
so we went to a gorgeous resort in the Philippines and spared no expense. We ate like kings and queens and all the rest of it, spa treatments every day, the whole thing. And now I'm getting into it. Now I'm thinking this is actually the kind of, I want to do this all the time, like why be in the office sort of thing. And so as we were bouncing around the resort, we were having dinner or sitting at the bar having cocktails or even at the breakfast room or whatever, we would have just, you get like these little, and I take these from hotels all the time. This one's from the Conrad in London here, as I'm holding it up. These little, notepads, they sit next to the phone, right, in the bedrooms. And so we're walking
Right.
around, and by the time we were done, we had lots and lots and lots and lots of different notes where we had kind of, jotted down ideas and wants and needs and don't wants and dislikes and things like that. And we started kind of putting them into piles, and we noticed that they were very clearly going into 3 tiles. And this exercise that I did ended up being the 3 lists of freedom. And so the first list was a list of all the things that I didn't like doing, right? The stuff that I procrastinated on all day long. I would drag and drop on the digital calendar, the whole thing. And that was the first list. The second list is a list of all the things that I struggled doing. Like, I was okay with them, but I kind of struggled. I didn't necessarily dislike them, but I wasn't very good at certain things. Like, I was managing the IT department. Don't ask me to look inside a computer. I've got no idea what's going on. So that's how much of a micromanager I was before I burned out. So that was kind of the second list, a list of all the things that I was struggling doing, but I was kind of doing them because my business was demanding them of me. And then the third list was probably the most exciting one, which is a list of all the things that I felt like, as the business owner myself, that I shouldn't be doing. So this is a list of stuff that I felt like I shouldn't be doing these. My time should be better spent working on things like, spending more time with my top 20% clientele, or coming up with new products or initiatives, or, going to conferences to network and get new clients, whatever it was. And there you go. The 3 lists of freedom exercise was born. It fundamentally changed my life. And I don't use those words, in any way, shape, or form lightly. We hired 8 people in 2010 to replace me in that business day to day. We tripled our revenue, doubled our workforce, and that company still now, after 11 years of rocking and rolling pretty much hardcore every single day, is continuing to make us a multi-7-figure revenue. So clearly it was the right thing to do at the time.
Yeah, yeah, but many people have trouble letting go. They think that they are the best or the only person who can do a particular task. They're fooling themselves, of course, but what do you tell that person?
Yeah, well, that's what I call superhero syndrome. We talked about that inside of Virtual Freedom as well. And I tell them that, you might think that you're the only one that can do it. You might think that there are not people out there that can do that task better than you. But the fact of the matter is, quite frankly, you're wrong. You're wrong. You've got to get out of your own way. You've got to stop believing your own BS. And you need to be able to learn how to delegate. Because burnout in that scenario is not a matter of if. It's just a matter of when. You will burn out. It will hunt you down and take you in the middle of the night. There's nothing you can do to avoid it if you continue to push yourself at those kind of levels. I don't care how much you go to the gym or how good your diet is or whatever. The fact is, burnout is inevitable, and we must try and avoid it, more so today than ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know firsthand. Yeah. I had several episodes of burnout in my 20-some years as an SEO. There was one time where I had to take a 6-month sabbatical. I was just done.
Yeah, it's real. You see, it's real, and that's why I take two 10-day breaks, one in the last quarter of the year, and then another one at the beginning of the second quarter of each year, and then in August we have the entire month off. So I take 2 holidays with my wife, just the 2 of us, and then in the summer, in August, it's entire nothing but family fun and games. And it really, and not to mention the fact that obviously I only work 4 days a week. I haven't worked Friday for 5 years, and I work from basically 10 to 4 p.m. pretty much, Monday to Thursday. That's pretty much it. So yeah, all those things certainly help to avoid it again. I don't want to burn out again, never.
Yeah, yeah. So is that one of the first things that you have folks do if they work with you, to do the 3 lists of freedom exercise?
It is the first thing, first thing. And nowadays, as I'm focusing more on personal brand growth and personal brand business, ecosystem build out and things like that, we still get our coaching clients to do the 3 lists of freedom, because here's a funny statistic. We realize that around about 70% of the people that consume our content or buy our products or come to our live events, about 70% of them would class themselves as an intermediate entrepreneur. In our world, that means they're making, 5 figures a month plus, right? So it's 10 grand a month plus. Call it 6 figures a year for want of a better, simple mathematic equation. But 80% of those people believe that they are at the beginning of their personal branding journey. So it's very exciting. The majority of these people are in their late 30s and beyond. They've got 20 years of solid experience in one particular industry or niche under their belt. They've got all this knowledge that people will gladly pay for to download from their brains and their memory and experience banks into theirs. They just don't know how to monetize that. And so it's very exciting to work with those type of people. But at the exact same time, these are people, the large majority of them have at least a small team of people. But you'd be surprised just how many more people they need to hire to be able to take things up to the next level. So the 3 lists, definitely right at the beginning of everything.
Yeah, and that forms the executive assistant's primary kind of job duties list, right? And
either the executive assistant or at least, a lot of the people that we work with are online entrepreneurs, online business owners. So, maybe it's an online VA that they need to, they're doing things like updating their social media. And it's important, don't get me wrong, to be seen and discovered and to spread your message. But if you're running a business that's making 6 figures a year, you should not be updating bloody Twitter. That is not what you should be doing. What you should be doing is spending time with your high-end clients, your mastermind clients, developing courses, coming up with great ideas for content, podcasts, YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. It's not saying, Game of Thrones, season 8 sucked. What do you guys think about that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
And just in case a whole bunch of Game of Thrones fans start coming down on me on Twitter, I haven't watched the season yet. I'm a binge watcher. I'm just going on what I have seen on Twitter, so don't crush me yet. Not quite.
I haven't seen a single episode of Game of Thrones, and I don't intend to.
I think it's one of those things where you're either into it or you're not. I kind of avoided it, and then my wife got very much into season 1. She said, "This is great. You should watch it. You'd love it." It's my wife. I listen to her, or I reap the repercussions of that. So clearly, I watched season 1, and I did get into it. But I'm a binger. I don't like to wait like an entire week in between kind of watching TV episodes. So I wait for it to finish, and then I binge as and when I get the chance,
Yeah. Spoken like a true addict.
Totally.
Yeah. Well, one thing I'm totally with you on this Twitter thing, and any other social platform where it's just going to suck you down this rabbit hole of not being in your gift, right? Not being in your unique ability.
Yeah.
I have my team manage my Twitter. I have no idea what I'm tweeting. I'm tweeting 7 or 8 times a day, and they completely drive that. I don't approve anything. I don't review anything. I have no idea what I'm tweeting about. They use as fodder for my Twitter posts primarily my Pocket. Are you familiar with Pocket?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I love that tool. So getpocket.com. So I just interesting articles and YouTube videos and so forth. I just drop into Pocket. They have access to my Pocket account, and then they'll dig through that. There are probably thousands of things in there.
See, now, so you say you don't really know what they're tweeting, but you're obviously giving them the fodder to go ahead and do what you need to do there. And I love that, actually, because
some fodder. It's just only some fodder.
Okay, but I mean, at least you've got a rough idea in terms of what's going out and things. And it's important to hold on to that little bit of authenticity, I think, when you're, quote unquote, automating something like that. So kudos to you for at least getting involved in some capacity, because there's a lot of people that don't, and they put these automatic tweets out and all the rest of it. And I remember, like it was yesterday, I was sitting in a hotel room in San Diego when a terrorist decided to drive off of Westminster Bridge in London and kill a load of pedestrians a few years ago. And at the exact same time, somebody made a joke about quote unquote London Bridge is falling down via Twitter, obviously an automated tweet, and everybody just ripped into this guy. So there's a lot to be said for automation and delegation and things like that, but if you're not using your noggin to be able to figure out as and when that automation should be switched off, then more fool you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I make sure that my team gets my values and my vision, and that's reflected in my Twitter, in all my social platforms, in my email newsletter, which I also don't have any involvement in, even though it's it's written in my voice based on stuff that I find interesting. Again, usually from my Pocket account, but they'll find stuff that I've never even known about. I'll once in a great while go scroll through my Twitter feed and find, wow, that was really cool. Or I had no idea about that quote or that particular resource, that book, that article, or whatever. They find that sort of stuff all the time, and so it's just the Pocket account serves as a kind of as a lighthouse or as a guide to
I love that.
the stuff that I think is important and valuable.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's great.
Yeah. So how are you handling your Twitter and Facebook and Pinterest and all that other stuff?
Well, I don't do Pinterest. I don't have interest in Pinterest, put it that way. My clientele are not on Pinterest, really. I mean, there might be a little bit of crossover, but I'm a big believer of less is more. You know, it's a mantra that we kind of live by across the board, both family and business. You know, you don't need a whole bunch of stuff to have a great lifestyle. We're not minimalists, don't get me wrong, but you know, I don't believe in doing any more than is really necessary to get great results. So Twitter, much like you, I have very little to do with it. My team runs it for me. They also pick up on certain things that I might share on the one platform that I do run myself, and that is Instagram. I love Instagram. I love everything about it. I like the profile grid. I like the stories. I don't have anything to really do with the IGTV option on there, but it's by far where I get the most amount of engagement with my community, my followers, my subscribers. So that's the one that I kind of focus in on. Is my team handling certain bits and pieces on there? Yes, absolutely, obviously. But Twitter is all but delegated completely, as is Facebook as well. The only time you'll ever really see me on Facebook is when I'm doing a Facebook Live presentation in one way, shape, or form. And that's kind of all we do from a social media involvement. You know, we have all of our handles everywhere. We kind of look after our platforms, our profiles rather, on those platforms. But we're not super active anywhere else other than really Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. That's what we do and where we do it.
So you're doing your own Instagram, you're taking the photos, you're picking the filters to use, and you're writing the
almost
hashtags
all
and
the
all that?
time. I'd say 75% of the time. Yeah, 75%.
So would you say that that's part of your, I'm going to give you a bit of a hard time here.
No,
Is
bring
that
it,
part of your
bring it.
unique ability or your gift?
I don't think, no, I mean, maybe it is a little bit, I guess. I mean, my feeling on it is that I enjoy doing it. I enjoy engaging with my audience. Instagram is the platform where I see the most engagement from them. It's where I get the most questions. It's where I get the most shares and likes, you know, for want of a better term, and all that sort of stuff. It's where my people hang out the most, according to what I see. And so, you know, I like the idea that I can share, you know, a series of 5 or 6 Instagram stories in the morning, and by the time I go to bed, 1,000 people have watched them. You know, I like that. That's fun to me. That's like giving a virtual keynote on a daily basis, pretty much, right? So I'm sure there's people with much bigger audiences than that out there, but for me, I enjoy it, and therefore I'm part of the, you know, the Marie Kondo kind of mantra of sparking joy and enjoying what you do. And Instagram for me is, when it comes to social, at this moment in time, it's the most enjoyable platform for me. So I like to do the majority of it. That might change in the future, but right now, that's the way it's been for a good year and a half or so.
Got it.
Yeah. But you can give me a hard time whenever you want. Don't you worry.
All right. Have you seen the movie Social Animals? It's on Netflix. It's
I have not. I've
really
not
good.
seen it. What's it about?
It's a documentary. It's about how Instagram in particular has changed our younger generation.
Oh, hang on. Maybe I have seen this. I might have watched it with my daughter. Was there one girl who was kind of in her mid-teens, whose father was kind of managing her, and she wanted to be a model? Okay,
That's
I
it.
have, and there was other people as well. I can't. I think one girl was getting bullied. I think on. Okay, so I have seen it. I've seen it. Yeah, a very
So what do you think?
interesting,
Yeah,
very interesting documentary. Yeah.
yeah. What lessons did you take out of that?
I mean, first and foremost, I mean, I've been saying this forever: is not to take yourself too seriously in anything you do. You know, for example, at our live events, I get people up on several occasions during the day to get up on stage and have a bit of a dance with me. I'm the world's worst dancer. I want to state that right here for the record, but it doesn't stop me getting up and doing it in front of 400 of my closest friends every time. You know, so I think, yeah, not to take yourself, you know, too seriously, and not to, you know, kind of look into too much in regards to what people say about you. I mean, look, the fact is, you put yourself out on the internet, you're going to get some strange remarks from time to time in one way, shape, or form. And I think you've got to kind of just let it bounce off your shoulder and not really worry about it all that much. I will say, as a parent, social media in general concerns me a little bit, particularly with the bullying side of things. You know, we used to get bullied in the playground, you know, by the big kid, you know what I mean? Whereas now kids are hiding behind, you know, Instagram and Twitter profiles bullying and Snapchat and whatnot. You know, you can't stand up to an online bully like you can a playground bully. Like you can whack a playground bully and maybe he'll leave you alone going forward, but you can't really do that so much with it. And unless you completely ignore it, and a lot of kids can't do that, it gets worse and worse and worse and worse, obviously. So I mean, you know, we have a 10-year-old boy, and myself and my wife were just talking yesterday about, you know, he's asking, oh, well, can I get a phone for Christmas? And you're 10. What do you need? You don't have no one to call. Literally, you know, like, no, it's not going to happen. And I will, as a parent, I'll be frank, I will delay giving him a mobile phone for as long as I absolutely possibly can, because I don't feel like we're quite there yet with things like privacy and protection for kids online. We're getting better, but we're not quite there yet. So I'll avoid it for as long as I can.
Yeah, I feel the same way, and I would guess that you probably only have a couple more years left before you have to cave in.
And if that's the
Yeah,
case, then that's just fine, because he'll be 2 years older. I can have a 2 year older, better conversation with him about it, and so on and so on, you know? There's certain
yeah,
things you can say to a 12-year-old boy that you can't say to a 10-year-old boy, you know? So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from.
yeah, yeah. It's a double-edged sword. Social media. I think it's a great opportunity for personal branding, for uh, getting the word out, for
Totally.
making a difference in the world.
Well,
And
what I always
it's a
say is that you use these other platforms to spread your message. That's the most important thing. You utilize them to spread your message and what you want to be known for, but you don't build your business, for example, on a YouTube channel. You see these big YouTubers got millions of followers. If something was to happen to YouTube tomorrow, they're done
yeah,
overnight. Likewise, if you've got a huge Facebook page or a massive Facebook group that you're managing, and you're converting people from that Facebook group into your program or whatever it is, one person says something against Facebook's T&Cs, they can rip that group down overnight and you're done. So the term I use is, don't build your home on rented land. You must
yeah,
always get people back to your website. Your website is a perfect example. Here you are producing this video content, this audio content as a podcaster, but you're putting it all onto marketingspeak.com. It's all there. People can come and
right.
discover the entire thing. And if it was to all disappear tomorrow, it would still be there. You'd still have your business.
Yeah, and it's been evolving over time so that for example, now do long form blog posts out of each episode
Love it.
instead of a separate transcript. People don't really love reading transcripts. They're just not really that riveting. So if you
Totally.
transform that into a blog post and then add a lot of imagery to break up the text and some click to tweets and so
Hmm.
forth, makes it for a very valuable content piece that they don't even
Totally.
have to consume in an audio or video format.
Well, not to mention the fact that obviously a lot of people, from a content marketing standpoint, you'll always get people that have absolutely no interest in listening to your show, but they might like to read the value bombs that you drop on the show with your guests. Likewise, there might be people that will never listen to it or never read it, but would love to watch it. Right. So I think you're doing it right. I mean, clearly you've been doing it for long enough to know better.
It's an evolution for sure.
Right.
It's 4 years in almost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good for you, man. You know, consistency is one of the biggest things that I see with my coaching clients is, you know, consistency is key. It's
It is.
everything. You got to show up every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or every Tuesday, or whatever it is. You got to show up every single week. Every time you say you're going to be there, you've got to turn up and you've got to show up. And you've got to do it for a long time, a lot of the time, before you get any kind of traction. You know, 99.9% of the people on the internet are not going to go viral. And therefore, it's important to appreciate the fact that, you know, the consistency, the hard work, the value that you bring, that's ultimately what's going to differentiate you from the people that are here to try and make the quick buck. And people's BS antennas are way more sensitive today than what they were 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago. People can tell the good guys from the bad guys much easier nowadays.
Yeah. What would be an example of something in your life and business where you've kind of stuck with it, just the hard slog, and you haven't really broken into the upper echelon with that thing? It hasn't really hit its stride yet, but you're still on it.
That's a good question. I mean, some people might disagree with this, but I would say maybe possibly even our podcast, Upreneur FM. I mean, you know, we're at 7 million downloads, which is a big number, don't get me wrong. But when I very sporadically look at, say, iTunes rankings, I tend to not worry so much about vanity metrics and things like that. But when I look at it and I'm like, oh my gosh, we're like 111 this week, or, you know, oh wow, we're only number 70 this week. You know, I feel that we've been around long enough, that I've got enough great content, that I've got a good enough subscriber base to be in the top, you know, 20 of all business podcasts on a weekly basis. But clearly it doesn't work that way. You know, not everybody's Tim Ferriss or Pat Flynn, right? And Pat's my best buddy on the planet. So, you know, we've talked a lot about that stuff. And it really, you know, I think the big thing to understand here is that you are serving. And if you're getting, you know, as we would say here in England, if you're getting your knickers in a twist because of, I think in America you say your panties in a bunch or something like that, right? If you're getting your knickers in a twist about these things, you'll stop. And you don't want to stop. You must continue because you are serving a certain community, a certain niche of people. And because of that, it's important that you continually show up and that you provide value. But yeah, I mean, I think the podcast it's number one, it's something I love doing myself. I think it's great. I love to talk. I love to be with other people. I'm definitely a talker more than a typer. And I think that it's just a natural format for me to be able to provide value to people that are interested in what I've got to say. But we've never got up to that, you know, that Tim Ferriss level. And to be frank with you, I'm fine with it. It really doesn't bother me. I never have done, and I never will compare, you know, my 10th or my 12th step to somebody's 100th. It just won't happen. It's not in me to do that or be that kind of person.
Yeah. Makes sense. Yep. I agree.
I do it every now and then.
You know, it's easy to get caught up in the, I don't know, ego or hubris of like, I'm only going to do it if I get positive feedback
Right.
or if I get some feedback.
Right.
But if you get crickets, it can be really demotivating, but you got to push through it because you are making a difference.
Yeah, but the other thing also is that, you know, 80% of any community will be lurkers. right? The numbers don't lie. They are what they are. So you know that 20% of the people that are commenting, sharing, reviewing, tweeting, all that sort of stuff, they're what you call the super fans, right? They're the ones that just love everything you do and they want to tell the world about it every week. Fantastic. We need those folks. But there's another 4 times those people that are just in the background consuming and maybe word of mouth sharing that you don't see online. So, you shouldn't be too worried about the crickets from time to time. As long as the numbers show that people are downloading and reading and that sort of type of stuff, then you have to continue what you're doing. I often say to my clients, which are true blue experts, some of them in their niches, I say to them, you're being selfish if you stop. Because people want to listen, they want to hear you, they want to see you. If you stop, you're doing them a disjustice. You say you want to serve and help people, but if you don't show up for them, if you decide, oh, I'm not getting enough retweets this week, I'm going to quit, then you're kind of being a little selfish,
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Yeah. Do you have a framework for how you walk your clients through personal branding and how to build their profile across platforms, across different channels, and so forth? Like
Yeah.
speaking, writing.
Absolutely, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes up the book. It makes up Rise of the Upreneur. That's exactly what it is. When you use the word definitive in a subtitle of a book, you better show up, right? I mean, you can't put a word like that on a subtitle of a book and not have it be the be all and end all. So we developed it actually via the Upreneur Academy, which is our online membership platform. And I noticed over about the first 18 months of launching that membership, people were actually self-identifying based on what they were watching and consuming, and likewise what they were talking about in our private forums. They were self-identifying into 3 buckets, and it was kind of building, right? They were in the build section of it, or the marketing section, or the monetization section of that model. And that is it, man. The entire thing is built up around that entire build, market, monetize model now. And so, for less than $20, you go to Amazon, you can get an MBA in building a personal brand business model. It's right there. I wrote the book. But I think the most important aspects of that are, defining who you are. That's right at the beginning of the journey. Once you figure out who you are, what you want to be known for, and the value that you can bring to the world, amazing things can happen. And I recently read a book on the Japanese philosophy of Ikigai, which talks about, and they use this kind of Venn diagram to describe it, talks about kind of like what you're great at and what you enjoy doing, plus what the world needs from you. And there's that little section in the middle, that sweet spot, and that's your business, baby, right there. And so once you define who you are and what you want to be known for, everything becomes so much easier. And it really comes down to just figuring out, a little bit like the 3 lists of freedom, figuring out what you're really good at, what you enjoy doing on one hand, and then the flip side of that coin is just kind of being real with yourself and saying, well, I kind of suck at these tasks, so I'm not going to do them anymore. Like, I'm going to focus on the stuff I'm really good at and what I enjoy doing. And that's going to be kind of like my incubus of building a really successful business, whereas everything else can be delegated. Everything else can be handed off to other people. I mean, we spend so much of our waking hours, so many of our waking hours at work, quote unquote. Why would you want to be unhappy doing what you're doing for all that time? Like, I don't understand it when people start moaning about Monday morning or even business owners, quite frankly, who are moaning about what's going on in their business, the crappy client that they hate dealing with, or the product that drives them nuts because, there's a 10%, return rate, or the fact that they, I had somebody, I kid you not, I was doing a book signing in New York year before last. A New York Times best-selling author was there at that party. And they came up to me as I was signing a book for somebody and said to me, and I quote, don't you just get tired of it all? Like the non-stop bombard, like will you sign it? Will you sign? It's so boring. And I looked at them and I just thought to myself, are you mad? Like I live for this stuff. I live for it. If you're that person, you got it all backwards, baby. You've got it
Yeah.
all backwards. And so I really feel like, we're in this position in our kind of lifetime as the human race where you don't need to do stuff that you don't want to or you don't like to, particularly as an entrepreneur. And so, do stuff that you enjoy. And that's really
Yeah.
the incubus of building that personal brand, is to ultimately figure out what you enjoy doing, what you want to be known for, and then working out who you're going to help.
Yeah. I think it's important to this one distinction though, that doesn't mean that you just can let it go to seed or not get addressed in the business. If it's an important part of your business, whether it's bookkeeping or a certain social channel or whatever, that's where your audience is hanging out, you need to address it. It
Totally.
might not be you personally, but someone in the company needs to take functional ownership of that.
Couldn't agree more. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. So how does somebody take the next step and in building their personal brand? Of course, they pick up your book, The Rise of the Youpreneur, but also you've got your Youpreneur Academy course. Where do they find that?
Youpreneuracademy.com. That's where,
Okay.
and that is, to clarify, it's not a course per se. There is a lot of learning material in there, but it's very much a community. It's an online community. We don't do Facebook groups or anything like that. So if you think of the Facebook group kind of being, the analogy I use is kind of like the cocktail bar where you go to hang out after work. The Youpreneur Academy and the community that's attached to that is like the boardroom. It's where the real business people come to hang out. So that's the Academy. And then obviously we have the Youpreneur Summit, which takes place in London every November, which is our 2-day annual conference. That for me is the highlight of my calendar. In addition to the dancing on stage horrifically badly in front of everybody, I love the ability to be able to introduce some of my close friends like, Todd Herman, we've got JJ Virgin, we've got Hal Elrod, all keynoting this year. In the past, we've had Jay Bear and Greg Hickman, people that have been on your show before, I know.
Yep.
On
I think
that
every single
stage.
one that you named has
There you
been
go. That
either on this
stage
show
is,
or on my other
it
one.
really is the, it's the be all and end all in the UK and Europe for anybody in our business that wants to learn and mastermind. And I mean, we've had 42 different countries represented in terms of attendees at that event. So it's not a UK event just for UK people. We have people from all around the world come in. It's easily my favorite thing to do every year.
So don't you also have a mastermind or some sort of think tank?
Yes. So so we have the round table, which is my kind of inner circle mastermind. It's the high-end mastermind group. There's 10 people that I work with every year as part of that, and really they're the top 5% of the 20%, right? So they're kind of like the high-end clients. But next year we're going to be launching something we're very excited about. It's called the Youpreneur Incubator, and we're going to be launching it actually at this year's summit. There's going to be very limited spots, so probably only about 150 or so people, and that will be a in-person mastermind, which will take place every quarter in the city of London. But again, we've got people coming in literally from all around. It's crazy.
Right.
We've got, I think, 56 people have already got deposits. We've invited certain pockets of our community to kind of pre-reserve prior to the launch in November at the summit. And that will be, for me, I believe that's going to be the one that I develop now more than anything else going forward. I love the round table. I love that intimacy. But honestly, I feel like I'm being called a little bit without getting too mushy to help a bigger number of people. And I think the incubator is going to be able to afford me to do that. So we're going to be meeting up 4 times a year in person. There are going to be special guests. There's going to be lots of masterminding. There's going to be a big workbook that everybody goes through and kind of, really takes everything that they're doing up to the next level. So yeah, masterminding and me are quite synonymous with each other. I've been running them now since 2011, and I love bringing good minds together.
Awesome. Well, if you need a special guest who happens to be an expert on SEO, I might know
There
somebody.
you go. Let me know if you know anyone.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Chris. This was a lot of fun and illuminating, I'm sure, for our listener. So your personal website, chrisducker.com, is also a great destination for them to check out as well to see how you have shaped your personal brand for
Yep.
yourself
Yep.
on
We're going through a
your.
big design change for that site. We haven't updated the design of that site, I think, since 2000. I'm going to say 2014 was the last time I updated the
Oh, okay.
design of that site. It doesn't look dated. I think we were a
That
little ahead of
doesn't.
the. No, we were a little ahead of the curve, I think, and we actually got copied quite heavily in the first year or two after it kind of got updated. But now I feel like we need to give it a little fresh lick of paint. So that's taking place right now. It'll be live
Awesome.
hopefully in the next 6 to 8 weeks or so.
Yep, yep. I've got a redesign in the process as well for stephanspencer.com.
There you
Yep.
go. It's the digital version of a hair transplant. Look at it like that.
That's right. All right. Well, thank you so much, Chris. And thank you, listeners. So we'll catch you on the next episode of Marketing Speak. In the meantime, have a fantastic week.